1 John 3:16. By this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. Again, verse 11 governs this: love one another. By this we know love. Here's the idea of love, and this is that demonstrative idea where the this points to the that. Okay, this and that. By this we know. What do we know? We know love. Here's the definition of love. Here's the illustration of love. Here's the example of love. Here's how we identify love. That he laid down his life. Who's the he? Of course, you're going to understand that that's Jesus. He laid down his life for us. Again, John includes himself. And we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. He laid down. This idea of laid down. This is not laying down the job, but this is a very intentional idea and language from John to point to the idea of sacrifice. He voluntarily, he willingly gave up his life. He handed over his life. He did not resist what was coming. He did not resist the persecution and execution of his own life, but he laid down his life. Why? For us. Again, he's speaking to believers, not every single person that's ever, but specifically believers. He laid down his life for those who trust in Christ. That's actually John 3:16. For God so loved his world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes. And so he laid down his life for believers. And in turn, kind of the reciprocal idea is that because of this, we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. So we ought to, what's the word? It's going to be sacrifice. All right, so we ought to sacrifice our lives for who? For the brothers. Right? This is, again, not all of humanity, but for the brothers. We should do it for other people as well, and for our humanity, brotherhood, but specifically for believers. We ought to lay down our lives for each other, and that's what it means to love one another. And so, I mean, think about Matthew 22, and I think it's 37 through 39, and that's the where the Pharisees, the scribes, ask Jesus, "What's the greatest commandment?" Is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. Well, we would certainly lay down our lives for us to be able to live. Like, we would sacrifice in order for us to live. Well, would we sacrifice for somebody else to live as well? So think about how you would love yourself and then love your brother in that same way. And John says this is something we ought to do. This is what love one another means. Think about Romans 12:1 and 2. Do not be conformed to the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Present your bodies this living sacrifice. There's that word, sacrifice. Living sacrifice. That's an interesting idea, even in and of itself, how a sacrifice can be living. But nonetheless, Paul says, present yourself a living sacrifice. Lay down your life. Jesus says, take up your cross and deny yourself if you're going to follow me. So lay down your life. It's very similar to the idea of deny yourself. I mean, here's the point. If we're going to love each other like Christ has told us to, if we're actually going to love one another, love the body, love doesn't come cheap. Love doesn't come easy. Love means laying down life. Love means sacrifice. Love means giving things up. And we say, well, sure, I would take a bullet for my wife or whatever. No, Jesus is talking, John's talking about what about your ambition and your goals and your dreams and your preferences? I mean, what about these things, right? Forget the bullet idea for just a minute, and would you just give up the TV remote to spend a little bit of time with your spouse, or to have a conversation, to show some love with quality time? So many ways that we can love each other, but it all begins with this idea of sacrifice and laying down our lives.